thank you for tuning into Spiritual Wake Up Call. I am your host, Marilyn Tennant. This week, I am putting out a bonus episode, and I feel the need to get this out into the universe because it's rather time sensitive. So there will be a regular episode that's put out this Friday in addition to this. Last week, there was a documentary that was released based on the world of a spiritual teacher that had a great influence on my journey named Teal Swan. And that documentary is called The Deep End. It is streaming on Hulu in a 4-part series. So we're going to look at the producer who produced this documentary. Her name is Bits Sola, and looking at her track record, she seemed to put out a lot of work that focused on fringe communities and exposing them for their shock value. You're also going to hear a different side of me, listeners, so I'm going to warn you about that. I've been doing a lot of parts work with working with Teal's work, especially the completion process, and I have a part called Savage Sag. And I like to give names to my parts because it describes their duties. And I could pull Savage Sag out of my back pocket whenever I feel that she will be helpful. Savage Sag likes to call out bullshit. And listeners, I ask that you have a look at any resistance that you have going into this episode. So if you feel any resistance in your heart, just get curious about that and ask yourself why that is that you have it. I also want to note the difference between a reaction and being reactive. A reaction is something that comes naturally, and to say that someone shouldn't have a reaction is super abusive. Being reactive is how Teal was portrayed in that scene, and that's completely different. So with that in mind, let's get ready to open our hearts, open our minds, and see what's inside. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Wake Up Call. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Nick Vinios, and I met him at a Teal Swan retreat back in February this year. We are here to talk about the new documentary that's out streaming on Hulu called The Deep End. And we're going to kind of critique what we find interesting in that documentary. And we're going to kind of break down some parts that we might have some questions about and things that are worth being brought up about that documentary. We're going to take a look at different topics of discussion that were brought up, just go from there. So welcome, Nick. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you, Marilyn. It really is. Thank you so much for thinking of me to be on your show.
Oh, it's just an honor to have you. And it was very serendipitous to find out that you were at actually the filming during the retreat, which I didn't know even before asking you to come on the show to talk about this. So that makes it really interesting. I really want to hear your viewpoint on all that went down. But first, I want to talk a little bit about something that came up for my viewpoint. So I've watched the documentary on Hulu. It's streaming this month. It's a 4-part series, and it is produced by Bits Solas and directed by an Emmy award-winning director, and his name is John Caspi. Yeah.
Yep.
So Bits Sola, I never heard of her, but I remember you saying when I first asked you, oh, I wonder if this is the documentary before we watched it. We planned on talking about this when the trailer first appeared. And you said, I wonder if that was the Bits team and I was like, I wonder what he's talking about. Is that somebody that I should know? And I looked it up and I was like, I didn't know who Bits team was. Like, I actually Googled Bits team and I'm like, oh, I don't know who that is. Well, I saw the documentary and it was so serendipitous. Like this is why I can't understand why people don't believe like that the universe lines things up. I never watched TV. First off, I like only watch TV when it's shoved in my face, like at the gym or at like the gas station pump. And I went to a hotel, I was checking in, and I looked over at the TV lobby, and there was Teal on the TV, like on, regular television, which I'm used to seeing her on her YouTube videos. And I was like, that's strange, like to see, somebody who I admire so much that is on, mainstream television that isn't usually. So I went and I Googled like this documentary that I got a glimpse of. And I was honestly horrified, like the way it was being portrayed, the way the people were being portrayed. And my blood was boiling when I saw it. And I was like, what can I do to help? I don't know why, but I felt like called to help. So this is my way of helping in any capacity that I can. I watched the documentary as a fan of Teal, as somebody who has been helped by her. My life has literally been changed for the better. And then I watched it again as through the eyes of an objective person that might not even know her or ever heard of her. And if, when I first watched it as a fan, I was like blood boiling. Really, my reaction was pretty upset and angry and hurt. And then as an objective person that is only taking in what they're portraying, I can see how somebody could be scared and fearful. I mean, they start out the whole thing with a somatic release. The woman in the pool where she's crying.
Sure.
That would freak the average person out that isn't comfortable with feelings. But like I'm a somatic release practitioner, so I'm like, oh yes, get those feelings out, get them out. That's good because that's out of you. But to somebody who's seen that, they might think that like she's causing it or, doing some very controversial practices. It looks
right.
The way they spun it to me was very controversial. I'm going to do a quick definition here of something that I want to define. This is the term shock jock. Okay, it's a radio broadcaster or disc jockey who entertains listeners and attracts attention using humor and or melodramatic exaggeration that may offend some portion of the listening audience. Okay, so in the documentary, they went in to say, Teal has 145 million views. She has 1.25 million subscribers. They knew that they were going to offend a large amount of the population that would be interested doing this. That's what I think anyways. And so that a large amount of their viewers, including myself, are in shock. And I was just wondering I wonder if shock jock could be applied to somebody in film. So I would like to hear your viewpoint, Nick, if you could tell us like what you thought about that was my first initial reaction. I want to know what your initial reaction was.
My initial reaction was a little bit similar, but I also want to give it a full chance because I was told by the team that they're going to objectively try to show what was happening with Teal's life and her career. I want to see what happens. If I was portrayed, I could have been portrayed as totally different, like the guy who seemed really argumentative. He had a great, I don't want to like talk about the show too much or the retreats, but I thought he would, if you would ask him now, he would say he learned a lot from that retreat. And they kind of portrayed him as having a fight with Teal in that one episode. I haven't really spoken to him too much, but I've seen him like praise Teal as well, so it's not all that one-sided. It seemed that was a long discussion that went on for 2 or 3 hours that I think we pushed right straight through lunch. We pushed lunch ahead because it was so important that we helped this man get to where he needed to be with his question about her not having a mentor. And I actually can speak a little bit about that with my own mentor for my golf career does not have any mentors really. If you really had to say, a lot of his ideas that I follow were his own struggles with the game and life and trying to come up with his own theories to help people, which is kind of similar to Teal, I would say. And that's what she's been able to do with her teachings. And I think it's better that she almost doesn't have a mentor in a way. But this guy was stuck on that. I mean, that's his truth. He was trying to figure that out. And maybe he's still struggling with it. I don't know. But she took 3 hours to try to help us all figure out, because it was a group, everyone sort of learning from the group in those retreats. We all go into it with a certain awareness and what we're trying to work on, and basically we try to all do our best. It happened so quick, but I don't know, I'm kind of rambling with that, but
what Nick is talking about, if you guys watch the documentary, which if you haven't, I suggest you do before listening, but what Nick is talking about is that there was a part in the documentary where somebody during a retreat, they're sitting down in the living room and he asked Teal if she had a mentor. And the fact that she didn't have a mentor, that she learned these gifts on her own, she was pretty much born with these abilities, that and she's one of the smartest people on top of that I know, I think. I mean, I really don't know
naturally
that many people smarter in that kind of field. I mean, so the way that the scene was played out, because I wasn't there, it looked like she was really upset and reactive to his question, and she made it seem like she spent very little time listening to him. But what I hear you saying is that was like a over 2 hour conversation. Is that correct? Like where she was helping him work through something that was bothering him, but it wasn't portrayed that way at all to me. Like it seemed like a very contentious conversation where she was kind of being an egomaniac.
Yeah, no, exactly. But then, you know, that's why I want to wait to, if they show the progression of this man's retreat. I don't want to speak too much about the retreat, but this man had an amazing experience. I thought the next day, I think it was, just working through his stuff. And as a man, I don't want to give too much detail, but as a man that was with him, that was like a very powerful thing. It was like a group of men doing our thing together and our processes together. And I'll never forget how that was affecting all of us. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I really do hope. I know I've spoken to a few people that are hopeful that this might turn to be like a little bit more in favor of Teal and Teal Tribe. But I don't know. I'm not as optimistic about it. But you know, the benefit of the doubt is always there. But I'm going to just share a little bit of information that I found about Bitsola. So she's a producer and actress. I'm just going to name off the movies that she produced, some of the in her repertoire here. She's got Marcy Learns Something New. It's about the BDSM community. She has done The Vow, which is a sex cult. The Greatest Hack, which is about the Cambridge Analytica scandal. It seems to be something that is there for the shock value. She seems to have that niche, right? That she has the shock value to garner attention, to gather people that are wanting to watch something that is surprising, offensive, and expose that inner culture, that mystery of the shocking. Director John Casby, his body of work was really amazing. What I looked at, beautiful work. He did Mipso in Japan, which is about a band named Mipso. They did a tour in Japan. So like there was a scene where he was had one of the guys using a bidet for the first time. And so like to be able to get into that kind of community or into a group, you have to be pretty good at getting people to trust you. I mean, I would think like if you were a director, a cinematographer that was in the niche of documentary, you would want to be like the unseen, you know, ninja style, like, but also you have to gain trust before somebody lets you in. When Lambs Become Lions was another one he directed, which is about the ivory trade and those poachers that would kill elephants. So he found his way in that circle to be able to do it. So these people have an art of infiltrating a community and exposing it. And I want to share a quote that was brought up here. So this was from the Teal Tribe forum. And so commented on Teal Tribe that I was present during the filming, and I can tell you this is not the type of documentary they told us they were making. If the documentary is anything like this trailer, I can tell you these filmmakers took the footage and spun it dark and sensational in the editing. I am honestly horrified. And I did some research about something called social engineering. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has some different meanings, but there's this one article I found, and I'm going to link it. It's about a man that infiltrated using social engineering. He breaks down his tactics, how he social engineered his way into the highest group, the highest leaders of a pickup community online and a gambling community, how he became one of the top dogs, so to speak. So the first step, he says, is to identify the leaders. Well, that's obvious. I mean, Teal obviously is a leader. Blake is also, or was a leader. I think we're going to find out if we keep watching what happened to Blake. I mean, he was Teal's right-hand man. They went in the first episode about how he was there for her and helped her while she was healing. He was always doing like techie stuff, like he was in charge of the camera. He was just always there, and like, he has a big heart, I could tell. And then he was just gone. I think we'll find out, but he wasn't there anymore. Notice. So that they infiltrated the group with getting, you know, trust. I think there was the leaders Teal and then Blake. They had that scene of Blake laying down on his bed, disclosing how he would die for Teal. They even had an interview on the trailer. I haven't seen this episode yet, but as the guy was saying that he would kill somebody and bury them in the backyard, probably being sarcastic. Right, I saw that. I mean, I think he's being sarcastic, but they sure did love that because they put it right on the trailer. And then step 2, shake things up. The film crew was involved in, from what I understand, a little bit of the activity. Something this was posted on the Teal Tribe. The film crew had CPs. CP stands for Completion Process Practitioners, which is a type of style of, it's a method to help people get through fragmentation. I'm going to link those in the description, but she wrote on the Teal Tribe, the film crew had CPs facilitate on them, and they would even take accountability when they were triangulating each other. Triangulating simply just means, you know, when somebody is in a group and they don't like one person, so they try to get everybody else against them. Like, you know, I heard that Becky over there, she hates your shoes, you know, and we're trying to get her to not like Becky because we don't like Becky. So that's what triangulation is. So they were shaking some things up and they were garnering trust. They were gaining trust as far as like taking part in some of the activities.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I may have recalled someone saying it, but I didn't realize that they were getting Teal's processes done on them and working with those processes to try to blend better with the group, I guess, and show that they were interested. And I thought, yeah, I really got to see how this plays out, but they seemed like they were genuinely like gonna put a good spin on it. Like that's what I thought, because they seemed like really nice people, and
Yeah.
if they're claiming to be doing these processes, it's like I could see them like being intrigued and wanting to put a good spin on things or whatever, and then their own shadows maybe came in and they kind of they didn't see the full picture yet, so their own shadows came up, and that's what's causing them to create this piece of film they're making.
Yeah.
And I don't know the best way of articulating it, but the way I see it, I don't know if people say they've had an awakening or not, but it's been through Teal and mainly just this one other YouTuber who takes down his videos and he has no fame at all. But this one guy that I used to watch led me on this way to think, and the way Teal describes things fits perfectly with what I think about the universe. And I don't know if, I can't speak for anybody else, but before I was able to see things a little bit clear minded or whatever. I hate that word mind because it's just a bad way to describe something
Yeah.
that's happening. But it's
Yeah.
like once you become a little more clear thinking, you start to see that it was all just these patterns that Teal talks about that we're all repeating. So a lot of that probably it all came up for us at the retreat. She's that mirror of what we have to see because she just tells things so truthfully. So as much as we were struggling to see what we had to see as the clients, I think the film crew went through the same thing because they were part of the group, and they're part of being around Teal's energy. She's such a no BS type of person. And that's kind of
Yes.
what I pride myself on is I don't do a lot of BS with my personality usually. When I'm in the midst of my addictions and things like that, yes, but I try to be pretty straightforward and not BS in terms of your average person kind of does that a lot. They're hiding from something. So,
Yeah.
and when you're not thinking clear, it affects things in how you end up composting what just happened in your mind. And I think that it really, I struggle, but I also learned a lot during the retreats. And if you don't see the the way that Teal and our team see things, like it's really tough to. It sounds like bad to say that, but it's like there's just an awakening kind of to be had. I hate to say that word too, but
Yeah, but you have to be willing to go places that most people won't go. Like that's what she meant by you have to be willing to go in the deep end. You have to be willing to look at your own shadows to go to retreat.
Yeah,
Like I have never been around so many people. When I went to the retreat in February, I have never been around so many people that were willing to look at their own shadows and willing to actually look at what's causing their problems rather than just, put a Band-Aid on it or block it out completely and just go on with life and cope. Everybody there was, there to get better. And get better is a very general term, but like, how can we get what we want out of life? And we'd go to Teal and we'd say, why am I stuck for A, B, C, D? How do I get to E, F, G? And she'd say things like she said to me, well, how long have you been training him to do that? In regards to like when I was talking about my ex-husband, like, why is he keeping me stuck? Well, how long have you been training him to do that? Is what she said to me. And I said,
yep,
damn, 17 years. And so I had
yeah,
to take days to process that, like really days to say, you know what, I'm part of the problem. And if I'm going to fix it and get unstuck, I need to look at how I have actually taken part in this situation. Most people don't want to do that. And when
no,
you are around a mirror, because every one of us is mirrors to one another, really.
exactly. That's a
She's a
better way to say
mirror,
it.
big, very clear mirror, and she'll just say, tell it like it is. But the beauty about these retreats is not only are we exposed to the truth, we are in the comfort of a supportive community that is there to help us process it. It's a very loving community. You know, we're there to give each other hugs and talk about what's going through our minds, our hearts, where it's not like just throwing somebody out into the lake that doesn't know how to swim and say, figure out how to swim. No, there's like people there holding your hand, you know, there to help you, keep you from drowning. There was many people, everybody. I have nothing but good things to say about every single one of those Teal and her team member, that they have literally saved my life. And that's why it makes me so mad that this, okay. So you're you're not the only one. There's some people that are very optimistic about the possibility of this turning for the better, but I'm just like, I seriously think that they're going to not turn it around to make it, because I want to believe that, but at the same time, I don't. They're interested in the ratings is what I think. They're interested in ratings because it has a financial incentive, and they can't get, you know, their accolades and their ratings and their fame without drawing in a crowd. And a lot of people 99% of people actually, they don't want to look at their shadows, love looking at this stuff that they love bringing down famous people. Really, it's like the video, and I'm going to link that in the description, that she did a wonderful video on fame and the ego. And it's a funny thing how, like, just we as a society tend to just gravitate towards these famous people, like they're like just like royalty. And she goes into why that is. It's because it makes us feel famous by proxy, by meeting those people's needs. And if you can't do that, you can also get famous by bringing them down. And that's why famous people are so mistrusting. I think she goes into that a little bit in the video too, about who they let in their circle. And there was a scene in that episode where she was talking about Juliana coming into the community and how that was making her very nervous because she didn't know her. And she was worried about giving her that automatic platform. And all she could have to do is say that she knew her or lived with her for a certain amount of time, and everybody would believe anything she said. And I don't know what it's like to be, you know, famous at all, but I do know that has got to be very hard. And even though these people have a lot of support, these famous people have support, it doesn't mean that things like this doesn't hurt them. And what bothers me more than anything really is the people that are going to get hurt that won't get her help. Because there's many people that I've heard that said that she saved their life. And now if everybody's just jumping to conclusions from the way this documentary is portraying her, at least so far, then they're probably not even gonna give her a chance. So, I mean, things were taken out of context. There was the interview with the guy saying, I'd kill somebody and bury them in the backyard. He was being sarcastic. And they took the part where she says that at the end of the episode, the part where she says that people will say that I won't be bigger than the Pope. And she's like, fuck that, I won't be bigger than the Pope. She was being sarcastic. But they played into that. That's the thing that, and I think you could speak for this, that Teal is funny. She loves sarcasm. She uses sarcasm a lot. It's just her sense of humor to get points across. And I mean, if she thinks that she was bigger than the Pope, would she have said, you know, quote unquote, I have no problem with people not following me? She said that in the episode. Or you're either in or you're out, you know? And that's because she has gotten to where she is based on the truth, on giving truth, not, I mean, the Pope is part of an appointed office in an institution that, you know, amassed many people in the religion through different questionable ways, and it wasn't necessarily telling people the truth all the time. So there's two different things there. So I was wondering, like, what you think about the things playing out of context, and if you have anything to say on at all, like fame in general.
No, the way I kind of look at it is like, she has this mission, to really help the world. And um, it, not just this movie taking things out of context, but just in general, like the way she sees things is a very. I hate to just put myself able to understand on her level, but it resonated with me the way I was seeing things in my shifts that I was having. So to me, that's it. I never can see the world differently anymore. It's always going to be different. It's like I had this thing like the funeral of the world. I call it. My friend
Mm.
and I. That's like what we would say it happened as. Really, I just don't see how she could be understood by as many people as you know should really understand her. It's like it's a whole different way to look at the world. I believe that she sees, and the fame and all that. Like it's obviously really distracting, and it's just going to be a tough thing to deal with during her whole career. But it's just because she's seeing we live on a planet that's in the middle of nowhere, and no one's ever been alive before who's currently alive. And there's just a lot of these dead people's ideas that don't apply to our soul anymore. So it's basically the way I see it, we need more people like Teal and her team, like you, like the people we met on the retreat who are thinking outside the box. And it's not that it's all doom and gloom. It's just the way I see the world now from hearing Teal's teachings is different. It's just I see it in terms of these parts and these patterns that we trick ourselves up with from childhood and things like that. So I just hope people keep giving her a chance and revisiting her content as their life evolves. And I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon. I think this publicity, as negative it may seem at first, it could be good because it could just draw people who just want to hear about it, and then that could lead to more good type of fame for her. And I know for a fact she said it herself that she doesn't care so much about the numbers and the money and the fame. She that's just a byproduct. She's just trying to help as many people as she can, and the fame is just unfortunately has to go with it. But
Yeah.
so it's going to be interesting how her career plays out if
Yeah.
these people who are initially hating on her end up seeing that it's just their own things they're not looking at or unable to see yet. I don't even want to fault people because it's their own paradigm and their own way to see, and they just haven't been vulnerable enough or truthful enough to see that there's more layers to this, how it's all happening. So
I agree. I think it will be interesting. I think it will change her career though. This spin, if it continues in this energy, it's really disgusting to me. It's low. Like to take somebody's sarcasm and then play it off as projected as this, we're the lost toys, right? And that was taken out of context too, because when Teal said that she feels like she's a spokesperson for every lost toy, and then they named that episode The Lost Toys, kind of exploiting us Teal Tribe.
I agree.
I think that they are exploiting her, exploiting us at our own expense so that they can get their dollar, their fame, their accolades. And that's just me. I'm jaded. I'm sorry. I'm just jaded.
I'm trying to. A few years ago, I would definitely look at it that way, 100%. Now I'm like a little softer trying to look at it.
You guys are sweet. You're not the only one. There's some that are like, oh, they're gonna turn around. I would hope so.
That's
too.
just my genuine. That's because I felt so connected to the whole crew when I was there. I really did. I felt like they were in it with us, learning with us and stuff. And yeah, this is so far not looking great, but it could just be the initial episode to get you hooked. We'll see.
It's interesting how they took out of context Teal's words where she said, we're going to do channeling. It is the most dangerous thing on the planet and also the most powerful thing on the planet. And I just want to put on the record that Teal's word dangerous is actually what she considers dangerous is like the norm of what we see in normal functioning of relationships. For instance, she says that overlays are dangerous, which an overlay is like when you have like a relationship with somebody and you don't actually have a grip on what the reality of the relationship is. You just put an overlay on it, like, this is my husband, even though he's an alcoholic that beats me, he is a good father, and he brings home the bread and he takes good care of me. That's an overlay. So she says like things like overlays are very dangerous. Or she says things like somebody who doesn't realize the impact they have on others is a dangerous person. So she'll use that kind of language to let you know, wake up, this might be normal, but this is dangerous. Like, this is the norm. Like, almost everybody I know has an overlay to some degree, or everybody I know doesn't think about the impact that they're going to have when they do an action or even just a thought. And that's a dangerous thing. So like when you do channeling and how that's dangerous, it's because it's powerful, and power can be dangerous if you don't put into consideration the impact that it could have. And that's what she was trying to bring out, but they took that completely out of context. And the only reason I know this is because I've been following Teal for so long. I wasn't actually there. So were you there at the retreat when they did that scene?
Yeah, no, they would always prepare us and tell us exactly what to expect and what to feel when we were taking on these different parts and things like that. So I wish they would have shown the little lead ups to some of those scenes that where they had the people breaking down and things like that. Like, it was like actually a really cool thing to see and like a nice process. But they just kind of hyped up the drama on it way too much, I thought.
Yeah, I really wish that they would show those little things of how the process actually happens. I mean, like the 2 hours that go into like that conversation that they, shoved into like a 2-minute appeared to be a contentious conversation between Teal and the guy that asked if she had a mentor. I wish they would have shown a little bit more and reflected a bit more of the concern that she has for you and gaining understanding, because that is her goal, is to gain understanding of the questions you have. So she spent 2 hours with that man to gain understanding of the question that he had about why she doesn't have a mentor, and how it came at the end where she was just like, it just made her seem like an egomaniac. Like it played her, I think it played her out as egomaniac. And it wasn't extreme, because I have seen like Jerry Springer type programs where it's just like, look at how bad these people are. So it wasn't, but I think it was very a covert type of exposure, a covert type of exploitation when I saw it. And when I tried watching it through the eyes of somebody who didn't know, I would say, oh my gosh, these crazy people have fallen for this egomaniac who is taking all their money, and look at how terrible they are. Don't you feel sorry for them? You know what? Don't feel sorry for us because we are growing. Right. We are doing better than we ever have. It's just, I don't think my life would be the same without her. I love her so much. I love everybody that I've met at the retreats. I have so much love for everybody in the world on a different level, and the connection. If it was a cult, it wouldn't be connecting us to our family as much. It wouldn't be connecting us to the world. The cults separate you. And what Teal's doing is she's connecting.
Yeah, it's just interesting what they're trying to portray. Out of all the things they could have shown, people healing, and I don't know what they're going to show, but I had an amazing process. I don't even remember it was being filmed. So show that and like what I really felt. I don't even remember. I was just acting completely authentic. So I would love to see something like that. But so far, yeah, I agree with you that it was a little bit not the way it went down. So
Yeah, maybe if you didn't say anything like you wanted, like you would bury a body in the backyard, then they probably won't get your
right, I
because
didn't
that's
say
the
much
kind of
about
stuff
that.
they're looking for, it seems.
Yeah.
So, which is just disgusting to me. Like it's ridiculous. But I hope that anybody that hasn't gotten a chance to get to know Teal watching her videos, please do so. And anybody that is interested in authenticity and truth, you will get so much out of. I guarantee your life will be changed for the better. Will it always feel good? No. Like this kind of change doesn't feel good. Like if you want to feel good, that's what the pharmaceuticals and addictions are for, right? Is just feeling good when
Mhm.
things aren't necessarily good. But this is going to be make you happy in the long run. I mean, I'm a lot more happier than I was, and that's different than just feeling good.
No, she's
So,
helped my life so much too. She told me last retreat I was at. I don't think I shared this with you, but I'm still doing what she's saying. But she's like, you're gaslighting everybody, and I didn't even realize. I knew from the first retreat what my patterns were, and she really helped me break down what my splits in my personality are and how they evolved and all that. And then I everything that I learned at the first retreat kept reflecting back to me in between the first and the second, and I was like still stuck, you know. But everything was every time I would get stuck, I would think about it the next few days, and the paradigm would shift, and it would all come back to these lessons that we were learning on these retreats and stuff. And I was like, I can't escape these patterns, so that's why I went back to the second one. And that's where I learned I was still gaslighting everybody. Like I'm doing it right now, but I'm happy to be with you now, but I'm still working on myself. So I can admit that. And when you can't see exactly what you're doing, that's when you tend to attack other people. Exactly like what we're saying. And
yeah.
they even said they were doing some triangulating and stuff. So I wonder how fit these people are to make this movie right away. I was surprised. That's why I said, is it the same people that were with me when I filmed, when they filmed at my retreat I went to? Because I was shocked they came out so quickly with this material. Like this would have been so life changing the way I see people and Teal's work that maybe they want to sit on it for a little while and kind of do a little processing of things, you know. And they were at the workshop I went to, and they were filming the workshop. So maybe there'll be another season or something in the future. I don't know, but I was shocked to see that this came out now and kind of seemed so one-sided and rushed. You know, I don't know. We'll see what happens though.
We will see what happens. I I'm glad that we came in and talked about this though. And I really appreciate your time, Nick, for joining me in this conversation. I do want to go into a little bit about how much Teal has helped my life. I know that she has helped a lot of people with suicide thoughts. And she's also gotten a lot of criticism on her methods for the fact that there was two people that I know of that actually committed suicide that were listening to her content that the family blamed her for. And one of those victims were somebody that she was working on one-on-one, but they were also under the care of a regular doctor, a regular psychiatrist. But I just want to bring up a point like the amount of people that have committed suicide under a regular doctor, do they get burned at the stake like this? I mean, this is a modern day witch hunt, I think. How the criticism has been going. Like, do they get all this criticism like they need to be shut down? And do people make YouTube videos about how terrible they are and they ruin life? No. And yet there's medication on the market that actually increases the risk of suicide. And yet we still give that to people that are depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is just a point I wanted to make, because we don't even know how many lives she's actually saved from her method, which I know is controversial because it's not the general, like, let's lock up and take all the freedom from anybody that has any thought of that, because that's what the current method right now. But you look at, and she says this in the documentary, that to play out both sides, and they took that out of context too. But when you want to play out both sides, if you're really struggling with that, and I know this is a risk of me talking about it, but the reason why she says that, I believe, is because she wants you to look at the objective truth as much as possible, that if you're actually struggling with suicide, she says, look at what will happen. Like, who will that affect? How will it affect them? You know, who's going to find your body? Who's going to read what is going to happen to all your things? Is that really something that you desire, as opposed to committing to life? So you choose, if you're going to commit to life, then you do it. Like, do what you want in life. And then she has thousands of videos on how to do that. And it just makes me so sad with all the people that she's helped. She could be helping thousands of people and save their life from suicide, but yet it never gets as much attention as like those two people that actually committed to suicide instead of deciding to commit to life.
She has a good view, I think, of, at least by having a psychiatrist there. You know, that's a really good thing to support her clients. And I was able to get help when I was feeling a little manic during my stay at one of the retreats, the first one that you weren't at, and her team member was able to not just talk me into things, but actually tweak I take a lot of medicine for my mental health. So he was able to put me at exactly the right amount and getting to the right sleep meds and everything going again. So it wasn't just her own methods that helped me. It was like, she was smart enough to have that psychiatrist there as well to help me.
Okay.
It's just interesting about how her methods they kind of threaten the mental health industry in the way it's typically done. But I think the goal is not to just stay managing your symptoms in the long run. You want to actually thrive and do great in this one existence that we have. And so I've had my medicine do a good job managing my symptoms, but now I'm actually taking a look at the dosage and the amounts I'm on, because I do want to eventually not need to be on these things that just keep me in a range and just not, just kind of managing. I want to thrive. I want to beat these patterns that I've been up against with compassion, looking at them, but I want to just kind of thrive, because I'm so blessed to be in the position I am, for instance, where I can do what I want. And it's kind of, how does that affect me when I go in the direction of what I want? And I'm starting to see that I have a lot of old patterns that I want to work on, and it's slowly chipping away at different layers of it. But
again, thank you so much, Nick, for coming on and having this conversation. I look forward to talking to you in the future, and thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. Once I get my thoughts a little more organized and I have seen the rest of the episodes, especially if I'm in any of them, more talking and stuff, I would love to keep talking about this because
Okay.
I just want to see how they portray the rest of the
Yeah,
documentary first.
we'll wait. We'll see the rest of it, and then we'll come back and do a part two to this conversation then.
Sounds excellent. Thank you so
Okay.
much for having me, Marilyn. I really
Thanks a
appreciate it.
lot,
And what
Nick.
you're doing is a great thing to defend Teal. So thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Happy to do it. And there you have it, folks. I really hope that I am wrong because that would be good for everybody, I think, all around. I mean, imagine the karma that this film crew, that this production is taking on by putting out such crap. And to be so dishonest, it's not an honorable living. And I realize after watching that fame video that that's my projection, that that's a way, for me to feel better about myself. But damn, you know what? It feels pretty good being able to sleep at night. I just wonder how those that put a negative spin on something so positive sleep at night. I imagine if you have an overlay on things, it can be easy to just forget. But maybe I'm wrong. And if so, you know what? I'll issue a public apology to Bits if I end up being the wrong one. I will be the first one to admit it. And if there is one piece of information that you can take from this, is that I hope that you can see that not everything you see on TV, on the media, or even right there in your day to day life can be an actual objective truth. That we all have overlays and we all have projections that we put upon people. And I ask that you be more conscious of that projection and those overlays that you may have. And be okay with being skeptical with things. Even Teal herself says she welcomes skeptics. So I hope that you've learned so much. I enjoyed talking with Nick, and we'll see you for part 2 next time.